let's move on to the NFL here because as I briefly alluded to in the intro, the NFL schedule dropped last Thursday night, and we haven't did a show since. So I would love to debate this topic right now. Now, one of the big takeaways for me, at least, is when the schedule came out, the Lions had about 4 primetime games. The Jets have about 5.
Mhm.
So a lot of Lions hype, a lot of Lions primetime games, a lot of Jets hype, a lot of Jets primetime games. So the question that we have here at the bottom ticker, should we have a problem with the amount of primetime games the Lions and or Jets have in 2023? I'm saying the mic is yours.
Um, it's a complex question for me to answer, but I'm gonna work my way through it to give you my direct answer. I was mulling this question over overnight this morning, and like I was on both sides of the fence for both teams. To start off with the Lions, I think it's difficult to say they don't deserve some primetime games because I said it all last year, even when they were losing games, and Lil can attest to this. The Lions were playing hard fought. Like even when they were 2 years ago, when they were playing, all their games were down to the wire, gritty games. They didn't have like these games where they were just getting blown out by 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns consistently. It was always a tough fought game. Even if they were down 3 touchdowns, they'll come back and somehow make the game close or make it competitive down to the wire. And that's what you see in a football game. And I know if you're an official, NFL officials, making the schedules, executives, whatever, those are the games you want to see. The gritty games, the one that are at the edge of your seat for the entire game and see what happens. Now the Jets is like you're getting the reason why the Jets is there is like that's why I understand Aaron Rodgers versus Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers versus Patrick Mahomes, Russ Wilson, Jalen Hurts. There's a lot of high marquee talent that the Jets are going to be playing this year. And with Aaron Rodgers as your starting quarterback, that's must-see TV. Because Aaron Rodgers' name buzzes through through TV, through networks. His name alone just brings in crowds, whatever it is. So I mean, the problem, I guess, will only be is what teams should have deserved primetime games that didn't get many or any at all. And I think that would be the argument. But I think I don't have a problem with Lions or Jets having the amount of primetime games that they have. I think the Lions deserve it because of how hard fought they played last year and how they play their games on a night and on a week to week basis. They play tough. The Jets, on the other hand, they added Aaron Rodgers to a team that everyone keeps saying is a quarterback away. The narrative is already out there that if they fail this season, they fail whatever. If they win, it's supposed to happen. And you're playing a bunch of high talented quarterbacks from week 1 to week 18. So I think, they deserve the primetime games. I believe Lions deserve their primetime games. And I think both teams are going to show out in each primetime game. I think it's going to be one of those explosive seasons for both teams because of the amount of work they put in to build their identity to right now. So I think, I don't have a problem with either team having that amount of primetime games that they have.
I think for me, I do have a problem with the Jets having that many primetime games. I'm going to dive into that on the back end of this lap. I think for me, when you talk about everything from a generic perspective, the Jets were a fan favorite team for many people last year because of how hard they played, despite Zach Wilson's presence, and how they had these young studs in the making in Garrett Wilson, Sauce and DJ Reed. Also, the Lions, the same thing. A lot of people appreciated the heart that they played with, the grittiness that they played with on a week-to-week basis. And that last regular season game was a microcosm of that. Think about it. They're about to get sent home. Well, they got sent home, right? They were in playoff contention. Then they found out that they wasn't going to make the playoffs. They were mathematically eliminated. And yet, with nothing to play for on Sunday Night Football, they literally stopped Aaron Rodgers. Okay, they stopped Aaron Rodgers. They wanted to win. They did some trickery. They literally fought to the end to keep Aaron Rodgers out of the playoffs. And who knows how much of a trickle-down effect that had because Aaron Rodgers ended up leaving to go to the Jets, who we are talking about. So everything is actually colliding here because let's say Aaron Rodgers made the playoffs and everybody, not me, but everybody was saying, oh, Aaron Rodgers as a lower seed in the playoffs is as dangerous as it's going to get. Okay, let's say hypothetically they win the wild card and they move on to the divisional round. Does he stay? Does he go? So the Lions and their grit and determination, despite being mathematically eliminated to send Rodgers home and ultimately to the Jets, is why I think they they deserve the 4 primetime games, especially with the buzz that they're getting. I
Mhm.
started this trend. Everybody came on my trend. JC started Rockaware, I think, right? Rockaware. Who started Rockaware? Diddy? I think it was Diddy started Rockaware. I started the Lions hype, right? And everybody wearing the Lions hype after me, right? It's all good. It's all good, man. But I think the NFL's prime time investment in the Lions is worthy because we get to see if Jared Goff is a prime time player, right? We know he's a solid quarterback,
Mhm.
not great. He doesn't have a high ceiling, but he didn't turn the ball over a lot last year. But in prime time, is he Kirk Cousins or is he better than that? Right? We get to
Mhm.
find out with these 4 primetime games. So that's the Lions' perspective here. And also, before I move on from them, the
Mhm.
draft was polarizing, non-conventional. It split the media world in half. Everybody liked what they did, or half the people like what they did, half the people didn't like what they did. So you combine those theatrics along with the hype. I can see why the NFL wanted to invest in their prime time, outlook.
Mhm.
Now with the Jets, this is where I have the problem
Mhm.
because the NFL is a very stubborn league. Don't get me wrong; it's a cash cow, money maker. They're trying to take over the regular season, and anything that tries to compete with them, they are trying to smash this year with the schedule. Black Friday games, Christmas, this, that, and the third.
Mhm.
However, they're very hard headed, and how I know is because they're making the same mistake that they made with Denver, and not only Denver, with Tampa because I am a Tampa Bay fan. I'm not gonna lie. Tom Brady, the GOAT, GOAT, GOAT. Right now, I want to bring that up because even though Tom Brady won the Super Bowl in 2020, right, the
Mhm.
first year with the Bucks, they had 4 primetime games because Tom Brady went to the Bucks. So just like Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets, Tom Brady went to the Bucks. 4 primetime games, 5 primetime games, right?
Mhm.
And you know what's crazy? Even though we ended up winning the Super Bowl, we went 1-3 in those primetime games, including a 38-3 beatdown to the Saints on Monday Night Football. I
Mhm.
sat there and I watched it. I watched Drew Brees tore us up. We had no answer. We put up 3. Who really want to stay up for that garbage, right? Anyway, if you look at the eye test, 1-3, you could say, well, 1-3, was it close? Was the game close? Because 1-3 could mean that it was a field goal win or whatever. No, we was getting smoked. And
Mhm.
it was to the point where Bruce Arians had to alter the practices because it was getting to our mental that we couldn't play at night last year. Okay, you remember the Broncos and how bad they were,
Mhm.
right? Russ goes to the Broncos, just like Aaron Rodgers to the Jets, just like Tom Brady to the Buccaneers. I'm gonna give you 5 primetime games. Russell Wilson, okay, cool. Do I have to really remind everybody how bad they were? Because I don't think I do, but I am going to do so with a 1-3 primetime record. Right, they were 1-3.
Mhm.
The NFL literally had to step in and say enough is enough. We gotta remove that last primetime game that they were supposed to have on the final regular season game. It was
Mhm.
supposed to be them and the Chiefs on prime time. The NFL was like, nah, we flexing
Mhm.
y'all to Saturday, okay, and we gonna have somebody else.
Mhm.
So, do you want to get to another situation where you have to go to the Jets with the 5 primetime games they got and go like, nah, Aaron Rodgers is done because we don't even know what Aaron Rodgers we're gonna get.
Mhm.
Or we going to get the back-to-back MVPs, can throw the football, can throw the rock.
Mhm.
That's why everybody love him. Or we going to get the 26 in QBR of last year,
Mhm.
Aaron Rodgers. Do you really want to risk finding out? I don't know. That's why I like the Lions, and that's why I hate the Jets.
I understand, everything you just said because I feel like from an unbiased, I am a Jets fan, but from an unbiased, standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. You don't know what you're going to receive, especially in most recent history. The primetime games have been the nightmares for the Tom Brady's, for the Russell Wilsons who changed teams. It's just about potential, and that's why you give them the primetime games. We're talking about Buffalo, we're talking about Chiefs, Chargers, excuse me. The Raiders, I'm not too big of a fan of that, but Devontae Adams, Jimmy G, they may be doing something. Don't know by week
It's
10,
Vegas, man. Like Vegas.
possibly, but I'm not banking on it. But so like those games, and I'm missing one. I think
um,
I think the 8-15 Cap Browns game, week 17.
yeah,
Let's see
Browns
what
is
they're doing there. It's interesting, to say the least. But I'm surprised Philly didn't get a primetime game against the Jets because that would have been a huge game. I'm surprised they didn't do a Miami primetime game due to them being in the same division. Their team being as explosive as it is, adding all the talent that they have with Jalen Ramsey in them. I'm surprised they didn't add those into that mix, but it's about potential. I think the one thing that the NFL does extremely well is flexing the games that need to be flexed. And I think I don't know per se if the Jets will get a game flexed. If our offensive line looked as bad as it did last year, we're gonna get flexed pretty early because that means they get into the quarterback extremely fast. But I think if we don't have those same historic offensive line issues that we had last year, because last year was crazy. I never seen so many offensive linemen go down in a single season in my life. I think the Buccaneers are probably as close, but that was like towards the end of the season or the playoffs when all the offensive lines started going down one by one. Having 6 to 7 offensive linemen in the injury report is ridiculous. I just never seen that in my life, and I don't know if it's gonna happen again. But the potential is there. Rodgers and Josh Allen's going to be an explosive matchup week 1. Rodgers and Mahomes going to be an explosive matchup week 4. And just the list goes on and on. The Cowboys, I don't know if that's a primetime game or not. I didn't. It's not showing on my phone who's going to be that game.
They're more
So,
than likely, if they're the Cowboys, they more than likely got prime time games for sure. I
because
don't even got to
it
look
says
at the schedule.
425, but I'm not too sure. It doesn't say CBS, Fox. So I'm
I'm
stuck
about
on
to
that.
look it up. I know they have to. They the Cowboys.
But
They're gonna get. They got one opening week.
it's just potential, and
Cowboys
I
Giants.
and I get them. I get why they did it, and I understand because you don't want to have to see the same Rodgers that we seen last year. As a Jets fan, you don't want to see that. We understand that he plays hurt. We understand he's a guy who considers himself an Iron Man. He plays through any injury, which you got to respect and it's commendable. But if it's affecting your play on the field, then sometimes you may need to sit out. Sometimes you may need to get that surgery. And like I said in my last take in regards to basketball, just like in football, just like in baseball, just like in any sport that is in New York, it is difficult to win here because we have expectations. There's a reason why superstars do not come to New York because the pressure to win is at an all-time high. You have to be a particular type of psychopath to want to play in this type of environment and this type of pressure to win. And right now, the Jets are thirsting for a win. Jets fans like myself are saying this floor is AFC Championship. We're not saying playoffs. We're saying AFC Championship is the floor. So that is the amount of pressure that Rodgers has to face. Now, can he handle it? I don't know. That was the biggest question mark. Could he handle the media? Could he handle the pressure to win in New York? We will have to see because now that time is officially here. But the primetime games are suited with even more pressure because now all eyes are on you. The last game of the night is on you. You have to produce. You have to show out. And let's see what happens. Jared Goff, I personally feel like I don't know what it is, and maybe it's the promotion you've been giving the Lions for quite some time now. I think the Lions might be fine in primetime. I think they might have a winning record in primetime in this year because they have guys who are not afraid of the big moment. Jared Goff, not afraid of the big moment. St. Brown, not afraid of the big moment. I know they may have to wait for Jameson Williams to come back because he's hurt. He's suspended for 6 games, 4 games. I
Yeah,
forgot how many
6 games. Yep.
games. So they have guys though who are prepared for the big moment. And Aiden Hutchinson, excuse me. So I can't actually wait to see their primetime games when it comes out.
Yeah, I mean, this is my last point on this. I think when you talk about the lines, right, the 4 primetime games, that doesn't include Thanksgiving. Because even though Thanksgiving, their slot 12:30 is not really prime time, Thanksgiving is prime time the whole day. Like that's literally everybody. The tradition is you get your turkey leg
Correct.
and you watch your football all day and you take a nap, right? That's what I do. So that's prime time basically. So 4 prime time games at Thanksgiving. And I think it's a smart investment because one could argue, and I saw a couple articles, Lions 4 primetime games, but the Eagles only 4 primetime games. How do they got as much as the defending NFC champs? But I could argue to that if everybody's predicting the Eagles to sweep, the NFC and the games are not going to be close, then do you really want them blowing somebody out on prime time? Like, no, I think 4 is good enough. The Lions 4 is great because I think the Lions will be in more dogfights. I think the Bears are going to have something to say. I don't think it's really, the Lions should definitely be the favorites to win the North. I don't think so. A lot of people's going to go with them, and who knows where I might go. I might go with them. I'm thinking about it, but I might pull back. I think the Bears have a shot. Lions and Bears going to be,
Oh my.
going at it. So, the Vikings, Kirk Cousins, stat man. Listen, I don't like the guy in the regular season, as I stated before earlier in the show. I mean, excuse me, I don't like the guy in the playoffs. As I stated early on the show, I don't like him in primetime games. But 1 o'clock, he's a pretty decent quarterback at 1 o'clock. Okay,
Mhm.
it's when the sun start to. It's like the what you call them people that at night, midnight, they start to vampires. At
Mhm.
midnight, the things come out and they start to, they need blood or whatever, or the werewolf. Werewolf, listen, I'm messing everything up. Werewolf, vampires, you know what I mean. So please take me for what I mean and not what I say. Okay. What I mean is at a certain time, out of the wolf or the vampire, they, seek what they seeking for, right? It's like the same thing with Kirk Cousins. Once the sun go down and it's 4 o'clock, I ain't gonna show up today. Okay, that's where he lose all his powers. So I think that division is wide open. So the Lions have before primetime games. It should be close. I could actually try to pull it up, the primetime games that they're playing. I might as well do that. I think that would make sense to look at the primetime schedules. Hey, do you have it on you, or
The
do I
prime
need to
time
pull
schedule
it?
for the Lions.
Yeah, all the primetime games that they have against who?
I got you. It's Kansas City
Kansas City.
in Kansas City week 1. We have the Packers Prime Video on Thursday week 4. We have Raiders ESPN uh week 8, and then we have Dallas week 17 in Dallas. So most of the prime games are away. But also the Raiders, I'm surprised. That's two like prime games on the Raiders have. One between against the Jets and then one against the Lions. So I don't know how many. I don't know if those are the only two the Raiders have, but that's pretty interesting that the Raiders got some on prime games, especially the way they've been playing.
I mean, the Raiders are, the Vegas, the stadium and all that. Of course, I
Right.
mean, of course, they're gonna get primetime games because that's the investment in the big market there, more so than the actual, football operation. Even though I don't think it's a bad football operation
Yeah.
with Jimmy G and McDaniels, Devontae Adams. But back
I
to the
don't actually
Lions here.
real quick. The week 15. I don't know if you have that schedule up. They go against Denver, but it says to be determined. So I don't know if they actually have that game as prime time or not.
Yeah, it says to be determined. That might be a Saturday game. That might be what that is. That to be determined if they want to move that to Saturday. I guess if you're Denver, you still getting that treatment that Roger Goodell didn't forget. You
Yep.
messed up prime time. So to be determined, I gotta see the test run of how y'all look this year with Sean Payton, and it's still be determined if we're gonna put you in a prime time slot. That goes back to my Jets point, right? But anyway, I think with the Lions, these are good games. The Cowboys should be a 50-50 game
Mhm.
at the Cowboys on prime time. The Raiders should be a very good game in
Mhm.
prime time. I think, depending on what Raiders team we get, that could be a close game. Who else? The Packers, the
Mhm.
Packers are still a divisional opponent. So no matter what I feel about the Packers and if they are bottom feeders, listen, Jordan Love may be Patrick Mahomes. He could be Zach Wilson. I don't
Mhm.
know. We got a lot to find out over there. And the Chiefs. This is where I want to stop at here. The Lions and Chiefs. Because although as I'm answering the question and reiterating it, I don't have a problem with the Lions having 4 primetime games. But what I do have a slight problem with is them opening against Kansas City. Because now you're really throwing them out there to the Wolves, and they could be 0-1 and at a disadvantage, right? Because they can beat the Chiefs, but they can also lose to the defending champs. And not only that, me personally, I prefer Super Bowl rematches
Mhm.
on opening kickoff, right? A chance for immediate retribution,
Yep.
right? That's what I love to see. The last time they did that was the Panthers and Broncos, Cam versus the Broncos, right? I
Mhm.
love that. That game was relatively close. The Broncos won 21-20. You have an immediate shot to get a good game, all right? Immediate retribution. Now, because Zay, when you watch those season openers, them kickoff openers, the Super Bowl team generally are still into that Super Bowl mode, the partying, the celebration. We
Mhm.
saw what happened with Sean McVay last year in the Rams and how they got smoked by a determined
Mhm.
Bills team in their own home stadium, and they looked like they were still on vacation. At least with a Super Bowl immediate rematch, you got to wake up, kind of, if you're both sides. Like the
Yep.
Eagles is motivation for you to want to go in Kansas City and beat them there because you thought that y'all choked the Super Bowl away, which I did. And then Kansas City is like, yo, we got the Eagles coming to town. We got to be on our A game as well. So
Mhm.
I think we'll get both teams, ready to play. And I don't know why the NFL don't do that no more. I really have no idea for the life of me why they don't want to do it. But,
Yeah.
I don't have an issue. My last point in the Jets
Mm-hmm.
is that me personally, it sounds good. Aaron Rodgers in New York never had that type of quarterback in that type of market. And
Mm-hmm.
now you do. So I understand why, from a marketable perspective, you want to go that route by giving
Mm-hmm.
them 5 primetime games. But you also got to see how the fit is. Right? I understand that Daniel Hackett is there, but what if he's off? What if he's still trying to gel with Garrett Wilson? That's a lot of pressure. And then these are good primetime games they playing in, like against good
Mm-hmm.
teams. So I would love to see the test trial first. I would have played it safe and gave them 3 primetime games instead of 5. But the NFL is the NFL, and that's the reason why they're the NFL. And I'm
You
leaving
know,
it there.
real quick, I just want to also say, like, the NFL schedule makers, they put the Jets in a bind this schedule. They have the sixth toughest schedule in the NFL. You're gonna have to, they're gonna really be tested early on the first 10 weeks. I said last year, I would be remiss if we were we had won 2 games in the first 10 weeks last year because of how tough the schedule I thought looked. And this year is even tougher than last year. So they have to really go over adversity early on because you have to play the Bills. You got to go to Dallas. You got to play New England, Kansas City at home. Go to Denver. Play Philly. Those games are not easy games. Those are a lot. They have a lot of packed talent on both offense and defense on all these teams the first 6 weeks before that bye week. So they're gonna have to be in their A game, like you stated. They got to tackle training camp with veracity, and they have to sign Quinnen Williams to an extension immediately because there's already reports that it's not looking good on the contract talks, and I don't need to hear that right now. Joe Douglas, get your job done, get it done. But anywho, these primetime games are going to be explosive nonetheless, and I can't wait for them.
And ladies and gentlemen, I can't wait to dive into this more. The NFL schedule is a big time on the calendar. Like I said before, a lot of NBA content. So, that got to be our primary focus, right now. But I'm pretty sure this week we'll get more into some NFL content. But ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, we are going to go to halftime here. Okay, we are going to run a flashback clip from my guy, Freddie, my cousin, Freddie. And it's called Paper Stats. So sit back, relax, and we'll be back in 2.5 minutes.
Please like and subscribe for all the up-to-date content. You've been slinging shows left and right, slinging content left and right. Please don't miss anything. If you do, like, subscribe, leave a comment, or leave a question, something you may want to answer, something you may have. All ideas are great ideas. Nothing's a dumb question.